Welcome back to the morning show here on Horizon News. Boko Haram insurgents have run riot for almost a decade in their stronghold in the northeast and have misplaced more than 3 million people across Nigeria, rendering them homeless. Despite the effort by the government and the international donor agencies towards supporting the IDPs, it is evident that there is a humanitarian deficit as many of these people live under poor humanitarian conditions in and out of the camps. Nelly tells stories through her lenses, one of which of Boko Haram survivors. She'll be telling us all about this and her future projects. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So such powerful images that we saw. I wanted to, and I mean, you sort of joined a little bit at the beginning of this, of the conversation we were having before, which was about your experience. And I want to ask you, when you go to these camps as a woman, what are the conditions that you find women and children in?
First and foremost, talk about their mental health. It's a very sorry situation because you have 1.3 million Nigerians actually per year who suffer PTSD. And for me, that's very, very key. Are we looking at that? And even myself as a female journalist who is also going to cover, who am I talking to about my emotional trauma after I'm going to listen to these stories? So those are things that we actually also need to look at. And then again, menstruation. Contraceptives. You also know that some IDPs refuse to take contraceptives. They were rejecting it at some point because of the whole religious aspect of it. So you have NGOs constantly working with them, trying to encourage them that no, you all need to stop giving birth at this point because the resources are limited. And again, some of you, your husbands are not even here. So there's a lot of things going on in the camp for women. Even myself as a journalist, how am I coping in terms of when I go to the field and I have to, I'm bleeding. Who's going to help me? What am I doing about that? So it's something that we need to start having as a conversation, especially in terms of emotional trauma.
And there's also sexual violence in the camps. Security agents attacking women. There's all of that. Now I want to ask you, because you've just touched on it, this searing imagery that you produce affects us because they do say that a picture speaks 1,000 words. Yeah. It affects us. So how does it affect you? You are the one producing it. Because we see even from conflicts from before I was born, like that, the young girl running, having been burned by napalm in the Vietnam War, the nail marks on in the gas chamber in Auschwitz. We all know about the Holocaust, but when you see that, I mean, how do you feel having to produce that when you are there taking these pictures?
Sometimes you go and you come back and you ask yourself, do I really have the power to tell these stories? Do I really sit and call yourself the voice of those people? Because you can't really fully expatiate on someone's story because you need to experience it yourself. But because I have lived in the Northeast myself and been through the whole insurgency as well and been to these villages, I can sort of relates with their pains as well and their stories and how they cope from day to day. Imagine having a busy life, having a life where every day you were going to the farm, every day you were taking your kids to the school, and suddenly some of your children are missing, your husband is missing, your family members, you don't even know where they are, and you are now reclusive in a camp. So imagine what they go through. And then me walking in, every time I go to the camp, sometimes I come back crying. Sometimes I come back asking myself, like, is this really worth it? When will this end? I mean, we are 10 years already, dealing with this. When is it going to end?
So there are 3 million people in ID camps across the Northeast. A lot of times when we hear that number, it feels so far away, and it feels, when you're there, does that 3 million look real to you?
It's real. And they are mostly children and women. It's real. It's real. In fact, I remember trying to uncover a particular story on drug abuse in the camps.
In the camps. How are the? So I know the. Sorry, this is the agencies do fund a lot of the camps. They're local agencies, international agencies. How do people get actual cash to engage in other activities like drug use?
It's interesting because they still have, so they've been empowered as well. They have skills. The women are making carbs, and the men as well. Some of them are now farming and so on. Because they've been in the camp for like almost, some of them for like 4 to 5 years now, so they become integrated into the communities as well. So they're kind of like trading as well. So those the little funds they are getting from trading, and then you also need to look at the economic abuse as well, exploitation from from the indigenous of the communities where they reside. Because they know that this is from IDP, some don't even want to trade with them. So you now have 8 agencies now thinking of other avenues or other ways of, of integrating these IDPs that even if they take their goods to the market, they are still able to trade. But again, they are being exploited, and the little income they are making, some of the men are using it, again, to buy drugs. And some are actually using it to move out of the camp. And
leaving them there?
No, they leave the camp, and some try to go back home, and it's only when they go back home and there's another attack, then they run back to the camp.
So with your skill set, you could literally be doing anything.
Yeah.
Why are you a photojournalist, and why are you drawn to like the horror of this, the aftermath of conflict? Is this also something you're going to make a niche, or are you exploring other areas? So
I like to call myself an accidental journalist, because I studied journalism. I never planned to practice. I was just like, I would just go into the media, into the corporate world, and work in communications.
Yes.
I didn't want to practice. But again, I was stuck in a place where there was no one coming to the Northeast back then to do stories. It was just myself and Fateh Bubaka, a couple of journalists in different states. I was in Adamawa, Fateh was in Borno. So we started just telling ourselves, like, come, classroom training and being on the field, totally different. And I don't think Nigeria was actually prepared for the conflict in terms of training our mass comm students in war reporting. So a lot of us had to go study these things and say, okay, what am I doing right? Okay, ethically, am I supposed to show a child who's abused, or a child who has been rescued? So those are things that we had to be teaching ourselves. And it was because I was just in a place at that point in time, and I had a camera, and I told myself, if no one is going to do this, and again, I struggled to pitch these stories because nobody believed me. It was like, your images are not so good, we can't use them. But you know what? Today, those images serve as an archive to what the plight that has been happening in Adamawa State.
Wow. So you mentioned this briefly. There are 20, according to the ICRC, which is the International Red Cross, they're saying that there are 22,000 missing people, and most of them are children.
Yes. I have one that I'm training in school currently. He still doesn't know where his parents are.
How does that happen? What is happening? So is it that when people are leaving the conflict, everyone scatters and you just don't know what happens?
Some of them are being abducted by Boko Haram, and when they flee from Boko Haram, they don't know where they're heading to. So they head into neighboring countries, or they head into communities that will now take them in and house them. And the North is a very beautiful place, honestly speaking. I haven't been in a place that is that hospitable in Nigeria. Everybody's like a small community. Even when this whole insurgency started, there were IDPs who refused to live in camps, and they were living in the host communities. And you will see a religious leader taking IDPs. In fact, I saw some IDPs stay in a Catholic church, some Muslims stay in a Catholic church, and I saw some Christians live in a mosque during that insurgency, at the peak of insurgency in 2014 and 2015. So it's a very, very beautiful place. So as much as they are displaced, and you always find out that the communities actually take care of each other. So it's actually true. Which
is exactly why they don't deserve this horror that they're going through.
Yes.
When I asked you, are you making this a niche for yourself, or are you going to venture into other areas? And also, what is your advice for women who want to enter into this field?
At first, I think I said that if I ever have a chance or get the chance to teach a journalism class, the first thing I'll ask, are you ready to die?
Wow.
Because you first need to tell yourself that your life stands alone, and then what you want ahead or what you put in front of you, the goal or the intent or your motives are original, and then you're facing it, straight up.
So this is for reporting in conflict areas?
Yes, okay. Straight up. And then we don't have many war reporters in Nigeria, conflict reporters in Nigeria. So it's a niche actually for me, because I've also covered the headers crisis, which I'm also investigating. I'm also and then I've also covered the same displacement crisis as well in the Middle Belt.
And where is that? Where is that in relation to the one in the Northeast?
They're all. It's funny how Nigeria. So as of last year, my friends and I were just joking about it. How Nigeria is a very funny country. We have like pockets of insurgencies or conflicts going on in like different parts of Nigeria, and we don't really talk about it because we're all focused on the Boko Haram. You also have the headers crisis, that has drawn all the way down to Jos, Benue State, and some parts of Nigeria that are now not even reported. So they're all interconnected, also linking down to the Lake Chad, the region of Lake Chad Basin. So these are all interconnected. You have the herders who were grazing their cattle at Sambisa, fleeing from Sambisa now, taking their cattle because they all need to feed, they all need to graze, taking their cattle through a particular route. Do you understand? Yeah. And they used to understand that the farmers are predominantly Christians and the herders are predominantly Muslims. So there's a clash, there's a communal clash as well going on again in the same Northeast.
Wow. It's so complex. So
it's very complex.
Yeah. So your job is to educate, to inform. How do you feel that information that you're disseminating, how has it been received? Are the changes been made that you think are necessary?
I still look back and I'm happy because no impact goes unnoticed. I remember covering Michika, where Michika was among those parts of those communities that were captured, that was seized by Boko Haram back in 2014. I remember covering when they didn't have electricity and all of that, and today Michika, the local government that was bombed, had been rebuilt, and now there's a bit of electricity, there's life going on there now. So banks are going back again to reopen. So those are the kind of impacts that I look forward to.
That's amazing.
And what is your dream for these people in the IDP camps?
To go back home. That's it, to go back home.
How does that happen for them?
They talk about it all the time. And I mean, one of the most important things I realize is the power of love in all of this. If you look at the whole insurgency, you know that everyone is, except you're not human, not to feel sympathetic towards their plight, but it's that power of love that keeps everyone bonded and that togetherness. Do you understand? So I still think as a country, you know, we have a lot to learn. And of course, this shouldn't divide us the more, but it should bring us together.
Just really to open our eyes. Just very briefly as we're rounding up, you said you have a child that you're sponsoring. Can you share at least maybe one other sort of glimmer of hope in all of this misery in a few seconds, if you can?
About the child I'm sponsoring?
No, about yourself or any other stories that you want to share.
I'm currently working, I'll be exhibiting at Lagos Photo this year.
Oh, please.
So everyone comes.
How can people find you?
I'm online, I'm on Instagram at Nelly_Ating, and Twitter, Facebook as well.
Okay. And people can see your work there?
Yes, you can see my work there.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us, Nelly.